Welcome aboard. We'll start in a minute. I just want to say that I'm extremely happy to see such a full room, knowing that we're in direct competition with the Nobel Prize winner providing a masterclass right next door, Professor Darren Asemoglu, the author of the notorious book Why Nations Fail. So really happy to see such a full room. Today we'll be talking about the possibilities of scaling up renewable energy sources in Central and Eastern Europe. What are the regulatory hurdles that we face and how we can accelerate the permitting. My name is Gennady Kundarev, and I'm part of a global climate policy think tank called E3G, Third Generation Environmentalism. I work on monitoring the climate and energy developments in the countries in Central and Eastern Europe, the Visegrad 4 countries, Bulgaria, Romania. I myself am based in Bulgaria, and I usually put in this category also Greece, which more or less covers the 3 Cs initiative geography, thinking that this is an extremely important axis of the future development for renewables and connectivity, both north-south, but also east-west. I will just briefly name our panelists today, and then we'll give the floor to one of our hosts. Mr. Angelin Tsachev, who is the CEO of the electricity system operator, the Bulgarian transmission system operator. Mr. Tsachev is going to talk about the connectivity in Central and Eastern Europe, what we need to achieve to overcome the bottlenecks in the region, but also about the role of nuclear energy in combination with renewable energy sources and what is the vision of how those two balance each other. Andreas Scholle, who is head of the Development for Europe of WPD. And he is later going to speak about the permitting hurdles, the grid costs allocation, fairness, and regulatory risks in Central and Eastern Europe and Southeast Europe, and also the best practices from the region. Next to me, Božidar Debuš, who is co-founder and board member of the Croat Association for Hydrogen Fuel Cells, talking about hydrogen infrastructure, strategy of market maturity for those technologies in the region, and application, and also how to be able to recognize certain greenwashing practices in this field. And Adam Harmat, who is Climate and Energy Program Lead at WWF, Central and Eastern Europe, who is going to talk a little bit about aligning the renewable energy development with biodiversity protection, and will tell us a little bit more about the initiatives of the global network on issues related to the fast tracking of renewables permitting and the go-to zones initiatives. But first, allow me to give the floor to our host, Mr. Sergei Stanishev, who is chair of the Strategic Foresight Committee of the Green Transition Forum. He's former Prime Minister of Bulgaria during the period 2005-2009, President of the Party of the European Socialists between 2011 and 2021, member of the European Parliament from 2014 to 2024. He's been introduced so many times during the event that he needs no introduction. He's well known to the audience. So, Mr. Stanishev, do we have you on board? Well, we'll allow Mr. Stanishev to continue right after. In any case, We're in a situation that across the Atlantic, there's a lot of talk about a big, beautiful bill at the moment. But in Europe, we have a big, beautiful deal to deal with. That's the European Green Deal. And we have a lot of challenges at this point. After the initial legislative train was introduced in the previous couple of years, we are at the point that we need to implement the ambition that we've agreed to. So a lot of challenges when it comes to achieving a high percentage of renewable energy sources within the system. I would first give the floor to Mr. Angelin Tsachev, who is going to introduce us to the challenges that we face when it comes to grid development, the bottlenecks that we face in the region, and the challenges related to the high energy prices and how it can be overcome. Please.
Много благодаря. Първо искам да поздравя.
Thank you very much. I would first like to congratulate the organizers of the forum for the excellent program. Only in a few years it's become not only a major national but a major international forum, and the trend is to include more and more significant topics in its agenda. Of course, it is very important considering the importance of the green transition in Europe. All of these are topics that we need to discuss because the transition from one type of technology to another will have an effect on the life of all consumers in the country, in the region, and in Europe. These challenges are very serious, and society must be aware of them. Now back to the topic of the challenges for grids and energy systems. What are the challenges that we are facing in general? On Sunday, in the evening on Sunday, in our conversation with Mr. Letta, we talked about the single European market. Of course, we discussed not only the single energy market, but the single market in general, and for the freedom of trade, and so on. However, a well-functioning single market will only be possible if we have enough connectivity and sufficient infrastructure. Unfortunately, grid development has been overlooked by the European Commission in previous years. And investments were only encouraged in developing new capacities. No one paid attention to the grids, and we started talking about their development only 2 years ago. So we see the results now before us. Bulgaria is a member of the single energy market. So is Romania, so is Hungary, so is Greece. However, the price in Bulgaria and in Southeastern Europe in general is a lot higher than the energy prices in the other parts of Europe. In the whole region, we are investing in building not only in energy capacities for renewables, but also in storage systems. We've been investing in such systems very actively. Nevertheless, the price of energy remains high. Indeed, we hope that after we have enough storage capacity, we will be able to see their effect on the energy prices, but this is a long process. I think that consumers in Southeastern Europe should not be discriminated against. And we are discriminated against. We cannot make use of capacities and resources in the other part of Europe for one single reason, one simple reason. In the other part of Europe, we are lacking energy connectivity. We have bottlenecks, and we cannot share energy between the two parts of the continent. Why so? Well, because we in our part of Europe have quite serious potential for solar energy, which needs to be suppressed, which is negative for the Union as a whole. And so we, as citizens of Southeastern Europe, cannot make use of our full potential for producing wind energy. We cannot use the potential of the Northern Sea, of the Baltic Sea, and so on. This is a major, very important problem, which is the biggest reason behind what happened in Spain, in Portugal, only a month and a half ago. The lack of connectivity in energy systems will have its impact for many years to come. It will affect regional markets. And here is where the European Commission has to focus, because in previous years, this was one of the major mistakes that were made. No one was paying attention to the development of energy corridors. We, as a transmission operator, already in 2021, completed an analysis of the capacities for transmission of electric energy, of power in Eastern Europe, and we proposed two projects to ENTSO-E, the Organization of System Operators in Europe, to the effect of creating two energy corridors. One is north to south corridors, Greece, Bulgaria, Romania, Hungary, Slovakia, the Czech Republic, Poland, and Germany. This corridor should allow us to share wind and solar potential of different regions in Europe. And the other corridor that we proposed initially had to start in Turkey, cross Bulgaria, Northern Macedonia, Kosovo, Albania, Montenegro, and reach Italy. This was the initial idea, but after the Energy Forum in December of last year in Turkey, this corridor was enlarged to start from Azerbaijan and cross Georgia, Turkey, and so on. The point of this corridor, the East-West corridor, is for us as countries from the south part of Europe to make use of the potential of the Caspian Sea to produce wind and solar energy. And of course, the most important thing is to make use of the hour difference in different geographical zones, the time difference, in order to increase the power from renewable sources in the most intensive hours. Last but not least, we should pay attention to storage capacities and storage systems. They are very important for storing large quantities of renewable energy. In the fall of last year, and if I may say even now, there was a lot of interest, and there still is a lot of interest in building such systems. We have preliminary contract for a capacity of 7,000 megawatts with a total capacity for storage more than 21,000 megawatt hours. And a lot of these projects are already being developed. There are permits which have been issued. There are contracts that have been concluded, final contracts. So I expect that in the next year and a half we will have built capacities for between 5 and 10,000 megawatt hours of power. This would allow us to continue on the path of investing into renewable sources. Because Bulgaria, Greece, and Romania, we have a lot of potential for producing power from renewables. However, when we produce 3,500 megawatts from solar energy in the country alone, and we have consumption for 3,200 megawatts. Well, you know what happens. All of the investments that we've made into renewables stop. No one wants to invest because the price is close to zero. So the only way to keep investors interested is to develop the grids, to increase border capacity, and to build new storage systems in order to allow consumers to feel secure and to be able to make returns on their investments. Our country has a very well-developed interconnectivity. Currently, our cross-border capacity is more than 4,200 megawatts. Not many countries in Europe have the opportunity to cover their consumption through interconnectivity, meaning only through import and export of power. However, this capacity is not enough. If Bulgaria really wants to develop renewable sources and storage systems, if we want to keep producing capacities, we need to increase this number. And these two corridors crossing here mean that Bulgaria's capacity needs to double. It needs to reach at least 10,000 megawatts. This is why we, as a transmission operator, have created a vision of what needs to be built in the country. We are working on removing the bottlenecks inside the country, and we invest in upgrading the grid in order to strengthen it on the inside. We also plan on building on new connections with Greece, Turkey, Northern Macedonia, and Serbia, and two to Romania, which have to create increase our cross-border capacity. This is how we hope to encourage investments in the country. However, what does this good interconnectivity lead to? Well, nothing, because the bottleneck is not between Bulgaria and Greece or Bulgaria and Romania. The bottlenecks are somewhere else. They are in Romania, they are between Romania and Hungary, they are between Hungary and Slovakia, Hungary and Austria, and so on. And this is the place to note. We had a representative of the European Commission in the previous panel. So here is the place to say that only bilateral projects are not enough. This was the practice so far. This was the funding model. This was the solution that was proposed. So only bilateral projects will not help us overcome this barrier. It is time for the European Commission to realize that when we talked about a project of general European importance which concern entire region, we have to have a different approach. The approach and the management of these projects must be entirely different from what we've had so far. We have to prepare them in a different way, and we cannot keep counting on bilateral initiatives. They will not provide a solution to regional and European problems. Why? Well, of course, each country has its own priorities. And as Mr. Letta said, on Sunday, Europe does not work in a united fashion. We work in 27 different ways. So until we start truly working together in one unified fashion and one unified approach, we will never move forward, and we will not be competitive with China, the United States, and other developed countries. The truth is, and this is the last thing I am going to say, the truth is that by completing those two energy corridors, Bulgaria, and by completing the energy storage project that we have for our new power plant projects and for our low emission capacities, I mean the 7th and 8th blocks of the Kozloduy power plant, we can become the energy heart of Southeast Europe. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tsachev. I was pleased to hear that you're looking for ways to integrate the renewables. Over the years, I've had the feeling that we've been mostly catching up. But I see that the mentality seems to be changing, and you have been proactively looking for solutions. A key takeaway for me is that grids which were neglected in the past are now in the focus of attention, and integration is also a major concern. You're looking for investment in grids, and everything seems to have accelerated. It's obvious that we need more coordination in Europe. Otherwise, we won't be able to achieve our goals. Projects should be implemented in an integrated fashion.
We switch to questions. Andreas Cholet, who is head of the development for Europe and country manager for Bulgaria of WPG Europe, a company that is developing a portfolio of renewable energy projects and mainly focuses on wind. So let's hear from the practitioners in the field a little bit about the hurdles you face and how you plan to overcome them, or how you advise the states to overcome those hurdles.
Yeah, thank you very much. I was very carefully listening to what Mr. Tsachev was saying, and I think he touches already the European perspective, which is very crucial also for what we are doing on national level. But in the end, which is now my topic as a project developer and investor into renewable energy projects, we are working in the national environment. And so now I would like to stay with the European perspective, and I hope we will also come back to that, but my points are much more on the local level. So let's start from Bulgarian example. You all notice that we have a boom in solar energy in Bulgaria, which is also something happening in nearly all other countries in Southeastern Europe, in the whole of Europe, in the whole world. And that is because solar is so easy to adapt to different situations, and it is only covering one part of the production when the sun is really shining and mainly in summertime producing more. Wind energy, where we are more active, has the nice aspect of being quite complementary to solar energy. So usually when there is wind blowing, you will have not so much sun. And we have stronger winds in autumn time, in springtime, when the sun is not so strong. So what we can say is that wind is very complementary and could be used together with solar. And in Bulgaria, unfortunately, we are missing this wind element already for quite some time. This is a bit unlike than countries in the region. Your direct neighbor, Romania, for example, was in a similar position and is now facing a boom of wind and solar energy. And we will see a much more balanced pattern of production when the wind comes in. And I can say that we are feeling that wind power in Romania is much more appreciated, first of all on the political level. So instead of building up hurdles in the permitting process, they are reducing them. I can tell you sometimes they're even reducing them too much, which leaves a field completely open and creates really a lot of competition on the field, which is not so good for us as a developer, but in the end, competition will always lead to better prices. So we also appreciate that one. But in Bulgaria, we were facing, first of all, let's say, environmental impact procedures, which were not well defined for wind power projects. We were among the first to start new environmental impact procedures in the country for bigger wind turbines. And we had to define a lot, we had to convince the environmental authorities a lot how things are treated also in other countries. And for our first new environmental impact procedure, it lasted 3 years to get a final positive result. So that's now done, and but this was really also producing a first delay. Now we come to the topic that the municipalities who are in charge of the zoning are not proceeding. And this is because we now see a lack of acceptance on the local level for wind power projects. This is on the one hand also triggered by people who are working against wind power, mainly for political reason, some NGOs who are also quite against that, but we see also a lot of I mean, there are certain negative aspects of wind energy, no doubt about that. It's big, it has a visibility, it also has an impact on the fauna and flora of the site. But completely ignoring it is not what we expect from a fair approach. So what we see is that we have to come with much more facts and figures about what wind power can really contribute. But I think this is not the whole truth, because we also should consider that the municipalities should also have a stimulus, should also have a participation in that something is built in their area. And so we as a company, we are already promoting a contribution that we commit ourselves to pay to the municipal budget, to give the municipality the opportunity to either invest into the municipality or to lower fees for the local citizens. So we are open to define what our contribution can really pay off. And I can tell you, this is also very important in the acceptance of wind power especially. And we have seen that in our home country, Germany, but also in countries like Italy or Finland, whenever there is a monetary benefit for the local municipality, acceptance is rising a lot. And this is also something that we are now trying to convey to the local politicians, that there is also something good, something to invest and something to develop their municipality. Because if we're talking about northeastern Bulgaria, where wind conditions are really excellent, there are also huge investments planned. And this will also generate a nice income for the local municipalities. We are missing a bit here the push or the support from the national government to identify also wind as a good resource in the electricity mix, and also reducing permitting hurdles, as I told you about the Romanian example. And I can tell you from our just recent German experience, that really can make a huge difference. Probably some of you know that Germany is quite advanced when it comes to utilization of wind energy. We have around 30% in our electricity mix is coming from wind. But in the last decade, let's say, there were always also not full support from our national government. In the last 3 years, we had a government that was very much focused on climate action, and now we see the effect. Instead of a pattern, what we had, like maybe 2,000, 3,000 megawatts that we are constructing each year, now we are doubling or tripling this figure because of the regulation that our recent government did, and we will see something like 8 to 9 gigawatts per year of construction coming up in the next 2-3 years. So, a lot of possibilities, but maybe I will give back the word and we will come back to more topics later, I guess.
Thank you very much, Andreas. Well, a lot of important takeaways, to be honest. And indeed, I'm happy that you stressed on the role of wind balancing a little bit the solar. So those two intermittent renewable energy sources are actually being able to work with each other pretty well. And of course, solar is currently the cheapest renewable energy source. So the more we can balance of it, the better. But then we need wind energy, and there are a lot of auxiliary side industries that can be developed around those two energy sources. If I did understand well, you mentioned the topic of repowering, so changing smaller turbines with bigger turbines, and that you've initially faced hurdles. Did I correctly understood that?
Not in my current speech here, but repowering, of course, is a topic that is quite important because, you know, lifetime of a wind turbine is designed for at least 20 years. Usually turbines can also last 25 to 30 years, but a turbine that is now 25 years old is very small, very inefficient, harvesting what is actually possible out of this position. So repowering is always a good idea because you will get a much more efficient use of this site. And usually, in my eyes, we have also two side effects. On the one hand, one big turbine will replace 4 or 5 small turbines, so the land use is even decreased. And on the other hand, the bigger the turbine, the lower the angle speed, so the turning speed. And you will see the smaller turbines are rotating with much faster speed, while the bigger ones are turning much slower. So also this is a nice side effect, I would say. So
don't lose speed, don't lose momentum. We'll get back to a discussion in a few minutes after we have our other guests. I also wanted to note down, I'm really happy to have a person who is so well aware of Germany, because Germany is a system that relied a lot on base load some decades ago. Now Germany is going to a system in 2030 which is nearly without any base load. You've closed the nuclear power plants, you're closing down the coal power plants, and you're moving into a power system which is going to be like 80+% renewables. I need to see the latest targets in your NECP, so I'm really happy if you can elaborate this further when we get back to the discussion in a few minutes. Now our next guest, Božidar Debuš, who is co-founder and board member of the Crowd Association for the hydrogen fuel cells. Please, the floor is yours.
The floor is mine. Okay, great. Good morning or good day to everybody. I'm sure if I would start talking Croatian, a lot of people would understand Croatian language, because we have so many similarities. And I'm here for the second time. I was here last year as well, and I started my presentation in Croatian. But I will skip now. I will start immediately, because I see you can easily understand me in English. Okay, so I come from Croatia, and I'm a co-founder and member of the board of Croatian Association for Hydrogen. Let's make the short version of it. Two very interesting presentations I've heard, and just regarding Mr. Tačev, I could understand similarities with our network operator in Croatia. Also, Mr. Cholet, we talked earlier at the preparation for the panel, and we came up to the fact that they are working also in Croatia. What I said is something very, very, very interesting for Croatia. In particular, wind farms. Sorry, what I expressed as a bad thing, but I don't like about them, is that they should really need a kind of facelift, because I don't like to see them all around the hills when I drive along the coast or things like that. But anyway, I'm going to talk not about that much about wind farms. I will go to wind of change, which I feel from the last year till today. So as you know, Croatia is a Mediterranean country. We are less than 4 million people. We have beautiful coast, a number of islands, and we have actually very good, let's say, opportunities and basic natural resources to start thinking about not only solar energy, not only the wind farms, but also about hydrogen. Hydrogen is, as you know, the most abundant element in the universe. We have water, we have sun, we have solar, we have wind, we have geothermal energy, and by using all of these sources, we could easily come up to production of hydrogen as one of the, let's say, from our point of view, very important energy sources, which will enable Croatia to meet the deadlines which have been posed by European Union, and we have of course accepted it, to run to net zero till 2050 with interim time 2030. So hydrogen is very important for us. I was able to talk to Madam Stanishev, and I talked about hydrogen in Bulgaria. Unfortunately, as far as I understood, there is not that much interest in hydrogen in Bulgaria, which I'm sorry, because I'm sure you will come to that point where you will see, because you have also the coast, you have opportunities to start a hydrogen economy, which in projection for 2050 will open more than 1 million workplaces in Europe. So this is something not to be forgotten, and which should be also taken into account when discussing about renewables. When I say wind of change, I in the first place think of a situation which was last year and which is now. I will start with the Croatian situation. Our government recognized the fact that hydrogen could be and will be very important renewable energy for the future of Croatia. And we have brought up the strategy for hydrogen till 2050. So when I first read it, it was quite a number of pages and a lot of informations, and I said, okay, well, hopefully we'll do it sometime, who knows when. But it turned out that from last year till this year, there was a number of activities, and I'm very happy for that. And as I said earlier, the Croatian Association was established 6 years ago. Until 2 years ago, there was not much happening. We were discussing a lot of opportunities, but not much up to today. So with this strategy, there were two scenarios. One was conservative, where till 2030 we would use around 70 megawatts of hydrogen power, which is less than 0.2% of total consumption, energy consumption in Croatia, and that would go up to 11% in 2050. And nowadays we have production of wind and solar of approximately 20 to 25% out of total energy consumption in Croatia. In this second optimistic scenario, the figures were bigger. Until 2030, we were supposed to come up with 3.8% of total energy consumption, and in 2050, up to 15%. And that seems to be fair enough. We were thinking which one scenario is better, so you never can believe none of this, so we thought if it's in the middle, we will be happy. What has happened in the meantime? Well, in the meantime, we managed to approach to a number of European financial platforms, if I may put it this way, and managed to get quite a number of financing, which was specifically for the hydrogen. Our association is a member of the Hydrogen Europe. Hydrogen Europe as a crown organization, a top organization of all the national organizations for hydrogen, is taking care of European outlook, how it is going to happen. Hydrogen Europe has established 4 years ago or 5 years ago also strategy, but we are discussing now that it's already outdated. Why? Well, because a lot of things has happened, also predominantly in technology upgrade, so things need to be changed. So I would expect that Croatian strategy will also be changed or upgraded to something what is new, what is actually be more realistic. So what has happened? What has happened is that the state started to invest in production of green energy. So now we have, for instance, a very, very interesting project which is related to production of green hydrogen. It's going to take place in city of Rijeka. City of Rijeka is the coastal city. It's one of the biggest harbors in Croatia, in the northern Adriatic, and the production will start rather soon. We are talking about, I mean, when you start production of, or want to start production of green hydrogen, of course you cannot just take the energy which is needed for production of energy into the grid. The energy must come also from the renewable energy sources, and they are mostly wind and solar. So this is something which is in order of 45 million euro, while 40 million euro will be used for electrolyzers of 10 megawatts power and solar power of 11 megawatts power. So that's going to be around 40 million. 5 million will be used for 6 or maybe 10 refueling stations, which will be tendered very soon. By that I mean maybe by the end of this month. So that's another part of which is going to be covered by state, by the government, and the government has at the moment allocated 15 million euro for that particular project. Of course, this is only one part, because when you say we want to produce hydrogen energy, green hydrogen, you have to think of the whole value chain of hydrogen, which means not only production, but storage in the first place, transport, and then refueling stations. So this is happening now in Croatia, and we are very happy for that, because we feel like there are also private companies who are following this line. We have some innovative companies which are also dealing with pyrolysis and gasification, which can manage in production of green hydrogen from municipal waste, and not only from municipal waste, but also from plastic. You know that the European directive recently published was related to wastewater treatment plants, where one of the biggest problem is plastic, microplastics specifically, and there is a need that wastewater treatment plants which are working in power or will be built need to be energy neutral. That means that they actually have to produce enough energy to run their own production, or their own work. And there is a company in Croatia right now who is investigating this possibility, and there was a pilot project done and showed that this is possible by using the sludge coming from the wastewater treatment plants with at the high temperature, close to 1,000, actually 1,100 degrees. This process is called gasification. It produces synthetic gas and heat, and you can produce out of it, you can produce green energy. So this is something which even European Union is thinking about, and it will definitely be one of the pushes towards further production of green hydrogen. This was only one or two maybe major projects. We have also in Croatia participation in the so-called Hydrogen Valley, North Atlantic Hydrogen Valley. Hydrogen Valley is a kind of a platform, you may know it about. It's a thing which is pushed by European Union. It aims to connect countries which are neighbors, and they can start both production of green energy, but also the use of green energy. So in Croatia at the moment we have some 60, 70 projects waiting, coming to be financed. Of course we have still problems. One of the major problems is the price of renewable hydrogen. It's still very high comparing to diesel or other fuels. This is also connected to price of the wind and solar energy, which is supposed to be used to produce green energy. Also price for electrolyzers, which are one of the main technical prerequisites to produce hydrogen. But the prices will drop definitely, as in very many cases. They will drop also because we expect that there will be more state incentives without which there will not be possible to move forward. I can give you just one example. For instance, in Japan, which is very, very high-tech and wealthy country, they also use state incentives for trucks. When they come to the refueling stations, they pay for the big trucks 150 euro less to fill it up comparing to diesel. So it's a matter of really states which they have to realize, and they mostly will realize, that without incentives there is no way out. However, Europe has established a number of financial possibilities to help states in the European Union So I will just name some of them. There is one very interesting, very, how to say, good facility. This is resilience and recovery plan, which was used in Croatia, and the money which I mentioned for the Rijeka production of green energy is coming from that particular plan. This is about 10 billion euro investment, out of which, let's say, a little bit more than 50% is grant, and the rest is loan. Of course, there is a number of other financial possibilities, and all countries can use it if we talk about hydrogen, and of course about other energy resources, renewable energy sources, like important projects for common European interest. There is a combination of innovation funds, modernization fund, there is structural and okay, yes, okay, thank you. So structural and cohesion fund also, there are banks, European banks for reconstruction and development, European investment bank. So there are really a lot of opportunities to start hydrogen economy. I would really like to see Bulgaria to go into it. I know that you have coal mines, and that is something which you are still thinking of, but think of hydrogen, it's something worth, because it will, as if nothing else, open a number of workplaces for people. And I would like to stress one option, maybe we can talk about it later, artificial intelligence. Yesterday we've heard something about data centers. Data centers require a huge amount of water and energy. There are companies like Apple, like Google, they promised they will go net zero. By that, they have been already approaching Hydrogen Europe to enable them, to help them to have access to such an energy. Where this energy can come from, it can come from renewable energy sources, including hydrogen. Okay, I will stop now.
Thank you very much. Well, the developments on hydrogen are still kind of in embryonic phase, even though the plans are big. And you described quite a number of interesting initiatives that are providing towards the steps forward to bring this technology and fuel to market maturity in Europe. We'll get back to that in a moment. Now, before continuing with our last panelist and his introductory speech, I just wanted to share with you, the other day I had the chance to speak to His Excellency Enrico Letta during his visit. What I told him is that I'm really trying to make more and more people read his report. His report is the shorter one compared to the one by Draghi. Basically, it's enough to really read just the contents to see that there's a call that we should do no U-turn on our energy transition, on our sustainability commitments, and on our social commitments. So basically, any call for just a wild deregulation is completely out of the focus of both those crucial reports on the future of Europe that were produced last year. And what we need to do is really step up the effort, even when we are talking about simplification of procedures or more synchronization and concerted effort within Europe, not stepping down. This was my segue to Adam Harmat, who will tell us about another important moment, and it's the clash and the conflict and how we can overcome it, the clash between the development of renewable energy sources and biodiversity and nature protection, because I'm going to use this cliche, extinction is forever. Once we lose a species, we cannot get it back. So WWF are really making a proactive effort to try to mitigate the danger and the risks as early as possible. They are on the front leading now with certain initiatives related to go-to zones and fast tracking of renewables. Adam, Please, floor is yours.
Thank you, Gennady, and good morning, everyone. So I would start with an EU-level data, a research outcome from the Joint Research Center, so the Commission's own research organization. So according to their high-level calculation, the available land for wind and solar on European level, it's about 5%. So they excluded all the environmental and socially conflicting zones. But so to reach climate neutrality already by 2040, the needed land, it's only 2.2%. And I'm saying this only as it's a number which can sound low because it's only 2%, but like in light of the already existing land use conflicts, we know that it's not a low number. So what we have to do is to really maximize the multi-purpose use of lands, and also in the meantime minimize the potential environmental and social conflict. And so in the meantime, member states, they should be very actively working on this. And the reason is that, so according to the revised Renewable Energy Directive, so there is an obligation that member states by next February, they have to designate these so-called acceleration areas for renewables, meaning that they are about to identify the low conflict zones where it's assumed that won't be, or it's the environmental and social conflict is minimized. As Gennady mentioned, we are supporting this process in the frame of an OIKI-funded project called Renewable in Bulgaria, Romania, and Hungary. And so within the frame of this project, we engaged multiple stakeholders from the industry, from the environmental sector, and came up with a spatial methodology to how to identify these acceleration zones. And so now we are applying this methodology to selected pilot areas in the 3 countries. And so what we have seen so far is that unfortunately there are many barriers. So to produce like a perfect output, it's pretty challenging. And the reason is that, so first of all, in terms of the governmental level, looking at the official process, which is not started yet or just started, we see a lack of coordination between the different ministries. And also in terms of data accessibility, especially in terms of environmentally sensitive zones outside of Natura 2000 and protected areas by national law, which is excluded per se from as per the regulation. It's really challenging, so for instance, to identify bird migration zones. So just to give you one example. And another, I think, interesting point that I would like to raise, it's about this pilot implementation. So we are in touch with local municipalities, and just would like to underline what Mr. Chalet already emphasized, that so really engaging the local communities and making some co-benefits for them, it's really crucial, because looking at the local regulations, so if a mayor is disagree with or doesn't like a wind turbine, it can be really a bottleneck for a wind project. So what is pretty clear is that so when we are talking about identify these low conflict zones, what should be a priority? Is the artificial land. So those lands which are already built in or it's degraded. We have already some examples. So my Bulgarian colleagues, they already made some calculations for Bulgaria, and it turned out that so if we are looking at the degraded lands and the urbanized zones, they can host more than 150% of the needed solar capacity to reach the 2050 goals of the country. So the potential, it's really huge, but obviously, so there are many barriers, especially when it comes to permitting. And But there are also already some good examples that I would like to highlight. So for instance, in the case of Germany, there are supporting regulation which prioritize those territories or areas which are along the highways and the rail lines. And if you are calculating the available size of this linear infrastructure, it's already a big size of potential area. Another good example from the Czech Republic, so from the sea region, they already mapped the available brownfield lands which is suitable for wind and solar. So this is what we would be focused on from autumn, so in frame of a new project supported by the European Commission, so how our countries, against Bulgaria, Romania and Hungary, can overcome of these barriers to really prioritize the artificial lands. Also in shifting to the already discussed issue with the grids. So when once and hopefully so the countries will outcome with this acceleration area zones. Now the problem that the existing grid connection points, obviously they are not reflecting these areas. So it's really important that for future grid planning, these acceleration areas has to be aligned and really focusing on these low conflict zones. And so when I'm referring to the grid capacity issues, so one existing issue is that how we can host more renewables with the existing infrastructure. And here I would just like to also highlight some good examples that I think it's really relevant from the CEEA perspective. So we really lack transparency related to the already available grid connections, zones, and grid connection points. We should also more utilize the dynamic possibility for the grid connection. So in practice, so now one grid connection point is only occupied by one wind project or one solar project. But so if they are co-using one grid connection points because of their different production profile, it really can work. And also, it was also mentioned that so if you are looking at our countries except Romania, it's really one-sided, the whole renewable development. It's focusing solely on solar. So I'm coming from Hungary, where now the solar capacity is close to 8 gigawatt, and the wind capacity is 0.3. So there was no new wind installation in the last 15 years. And so now we are really facing of this negative price. But if we would increase the wind capacity to at least the same amount of the level of what we have for solar, the modelings are really clear that we would really get rid of those capacities which now needed to balance this very one-sided solar production. And lastly, I think, so it's because it's really politically sensitive in the CEEA region, I just would like to highlight the importance of the demand-side management, because so obviously one possible solution is to shape our production always according to the consumption profile, but so there is also a huge potential to shape our consumption profile to the wind and solar production. It's happening in the industrial sector, but it can also happen on the household sector as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Adam. And you've tackled a lot of issues that I want to get back as questions to some of our previous speakers, but I'll start in reverse order. ask you to give us maybe a few more concrete examples of projects that you have found in your experience risky, just to illustrate a little bit more. I immediately think of this recent issue of an old project, the submerged hydro on the Danube between Bulgaria and Romania, which is neither solar or wind, but I remember that there was a bit of a not too public campaign on it. So it was an old project dusted off from the bins and now presented as a very important project. We know that there are rumors that there's also a security angle related to this project. But what would be the cost if we implement this without really thinking enough if we have alternatives? And can you give us some other examples just to make the audience really try to walk a little bit in your shoes?
Yeah, obviously. So yeah, until now we only talked about wind and solar, but the title of this panel is renewable, so obviously hydropower is very relevant. And just to give you one good example from in terms of the hydro, so my Romanian colleagues, they made a very comprehensive research on the potential of retrofitting the existing hydropower fleet. And it turned out that it could gain additional 1 terawatt-hour electricity production, so without building any new hydropower plant. Obviously, I don't want to go into the details with the risk of new hydropower plant. But so, for instance, there would be a new hydropower plant in the Danube. Practically, it would mean the extension of the sturgeon species, which is really, from conservation value, the most unique species that we have in the CEEA region. And obviously, that's why, in terms of hydropower, we should really focus on the existing infrastructure, and because of the aging hydropower fleet, the refurbishment, it's already timely. So why don't we really maximize the energy efficiency potential of these upcoming projects? Also, in terms of pumped storage, we also have some research on that. So there are available low conflict sites that can also play as an important role to balance the intermittent wind and solar production. Lastly, in terms of wind and solar, so what we are experiencing, it's really this issue with the different data availability, and that's why I wouldn't be an industrial actor in this field with maximizing the environmental benefit, because it's really hard to access the available data and get along with, for instance, with the national parks. So we really need some coordinated approach on this that we are facing now within our project.
Thank you, Adam. My takeaway would be, there are definitely projects and areas where we can fast track, and when we can do some preliminary research and homework to know that, those are areas or those are type of project and scale of projects that cannot lead to significant harm, but then there are other projects that really require us to step in with much more consciously and cautiously. Getting back to Mr. Debush. Sorry for the mispronunciation. I've done this throughout this panel, so mea culpa. Now, on hydrogen, you've described this plethora of projects and initiatives ongoing, but there's still a long way to go to really bring the green hydrogen to market parity and just make it into an energy source that doesn't rely on subsidies, ideally, in the future. I mean, the role might be so niche and so important that, of course, we may need to rely on subsidies for a long time, but describing this ecosystem when it comes to planning next steps, regional cooperation, generally more cooperation, what would be the path that would bring hydrogen, the green hydrogen, as quickly as possible to market maturity?
Okay, thank you for the question. I think it works. Yes, it works. Okay. So, yeah, the question is very good. Actually, there is a big problem right now in front of us, and that is going to be how can we use the hydrogen which we will produce. I'm talking about Croatia in the first place. But we can feel that there will be reaction on the production, and that will be consumption of hydrogen. In the first place, we are experiencing plans of cities. For instance, city of Zagreb is planning to buy 60 buses on hydrogen. This is going to be definitely one of the bigger, let's say, boosts in terms of projects. And this is going to be the way to continue. I mean, the wind beneath further implementation of green hydrogen is definitely transport, heavy transport in the first place, meaning buses and heavy trucks. And this is going to happen. You now also have trucks which are even autonomous in driving, running on hydrogen. I have been involved in one discussion between China and Saudi Arabia. So this is something which is going on. I would expect also private investments in this relation.
Are you optimistic that, you know, certain types of freight transport will probably rely on hydrogen a lot, or in some products and derivatives from hydrogen, from green hydrogen? But are you so optimistic that this is going to come soon, considering, for example, the recent failure of some public tenders in Romania? They tried to introduce hydrogen trains, hydrogen locomotives, and this didn't work out at this stage. So do you still see this still important role for green hydrogen in the heavy transport?
Well, I'm coming from Association for Hydrogen. I'm optimistic, definitely, and I'm sure it will happen. And in due time, there will be problems, of course, on the way. But you know, yesterday we were discussing and hearing what is the way, what is the line. Like here in this room, there is one way. This is the big door here. Okay, there is another door. There is only one door. We should go out and we should use it. Not 27 doors.
I see. And I've been asking the wrong person, obviously, this question, but I have another wrong question. And it's related to the risk of greenwashing when it comes to hydrogen. And an immediate example, with recovery and resilience plans in a number of countries, there were proposals which, in my view, didn't have solid arguments, like, you know, now we are going to do this type of investments in, specifically this was to push forward natural gas infrastructure, with the idea that certain turbines or infrastructure will then be turned quickly into use of green hydrogen immediately in 2030 or soon after. How do we recognize when there are genuine projects and intentions, and when something requires at least a little bit more argumentation?
Yeah, well, of course, you don't do it just like that. I would like to get some money to do something. Of course, you have to make a feasibility study, and then you have to make all the calculations and to prove that the technology you will use will be really used in the right manner, and the one which will be chosen will be okay. So this is not a fast running thing. You have to spend some time, you have to spend some money on it, but the money for that is also provided by European Union. So I can mention also some parallel projects which have been executed in Croatia, money coming majority up to 85% in something similar. This is in water-related projects for water supply systems, for sewage systems, for wastewater treatment plants, where we needed to provide feasibility study for each agglomerations in Croatia, and that was the money which was used. Of course, if you don't use as it was foreseen through the projects, through tenders, through feasibility study, you are obliged pay back the money. We have one situation like that at the moment, and local communities will have to pay back to European Union the money which was not used in a proper way. So there are people in European Union which are dealing with this kind of problem, and I don't expect that this might be a bigger problem in the future.
Thank you very much. Now to Andrea Cholet. I do have this idea that, now with wind energy development still blocked in Bulgaria, Hungary, Slovakia, we're a bit in a position that we may lose some opportunities to develop side industries, so to say. And Romania now looks in a better position, also Greece. They do have access to sea, they have seaports and infrastructure, they have good industry and industrial traditions. Is Romania going to emerge now as a big regional winner, in your view, comparing, for example, with Poland, where I've checked only in previous years, maybe now the picture is a bit different, but 50 to 60% of the added value of the wind projects, onshore wind projects, actually were retained in Poland because they had all the side industries developing components and working on the installation and everything. In Romania, I think the number was much lower, like 20, but they probably have the chance now to emerge as a regional leader. Is this a correct read of the situation?
Yeah, definitely all the manufacturers are attracted by big size markets, and Poland was quite an attractive market. Romania is becoming one, and as you're saying, Bulgaria is still lagging behind. So when it comes to a decision, where will I open up my blade factory, where will I source my steel towers from, where will I source the concrete, then yeah, if there's a bigger market, obviously, then it is much more attractive to put it there. Maybe I will use the chance to introduce also another topic which is extremely relevant for the Romanian market right now, and that is the Chinese manufacturers. Probably you are aware that 7 out of 10 wind energy manufacturers are Chinese, and we have only few European manufacturers left. And especially now in the case of Romania, we can also see that for a longer time, let's say Chinese manufacturers were not so present in European markets, but now we see them coming in Italy, we see them coming in Scandinavia, and we see them also coming in Romania. And until now, at least, all this production is based in China. So all components are shipped from China, and there is not so much added value in the country where they are installed. So this is also a strategic question for Europe, for the countries, how to balance, let's say, between the cost effectiveness of Chinese manufacturers, but on the other hand, the local benefits that production of tower and blades and other equipment of the wind turbines can also have in the country. So we have a quite clear idea that we as a European developer and investor, we will use Chinese turbines not in Europe. We will use them in Asia. But I think this is also something which we will discuss much more in the next time, especially thinking about who is in charge of software, of controllers in solar inverters as in wind turbines. So there is quite a new discussion coming up.
Thank you very much. And a matter of strategic importance and strategic autonomy for Europe and for us as a region. The other topic you mentioned was kind of achieving the social license with the development of renewable energy, large-scale renewable energy projects, which the wind projects always are, with local communities. And I also think that this has been one big gap in the planning of the projects here in Bulgaria and in the region, that maybe not much obviously stays with the community. What is your recommendation of a system to really achieve that here? What are the types of measures and types of support for local communities that you see are really applicable and would work well in Bulgaria? And again, I'm giving the example of Poland. We know that it's a big country, big population. There's still resistance in certain regions against the wind energy. But in the regions that they do have wind energy projects and a lot of benefits stay with the communities, they want more. And that's more or less the case everywhere in Europe. So what would you recommend to Bulgaria and to the region, to the wind energy developers, and also to the policymakers, how to open those projects and enable those type of support to local communities?
Yeah, there are different ways how you can collect money from these investments. Like in the Polish case, it's done via taxation of the lands that you are using. But we also see in other countries that it is more considered already like a contribution that you have to give not for taxation purposes, but just because you are using the resource of the area and you have to pay a certain amount. Bulgaria still doesn't have this kind of system, so instead we as a company are offering a commitment, a percentage of our income that we dedicate to the municipal budget. And this could be also become like a standard practice in the country. And we believe that in the mid-run, this will then turn the tide, as you were saying, in countries where people already feel the income in the local budgets. More and more people also see the reason why this is good for them. And we also believe that with the service industry that is coming along, with jobs that we can create in this environment, it can also stimulate development of the more rural side of the country. We see that also in Germany, where in the rural areas, this income is split between the landlords who are renting this and the local budgets, and both of them in combination will then also lead to a better image of the local municipality.
Thank you very much. This was very concrete. Now, back to our first speaker, Mr. Tsachev. Амбицията по отношение на ниво
The ambition when it comes to the share of RES has been growing considerably across the region. We heard examples from other Central and Eastern European countries. Bulgaria, until recently, depended on 70+% of base load. We had 40 to 50% share of coal-fired power stations, and a large share for the nuclear power station, and well, very soon we'll be left with the nuclear power station only, but that would be up to 30 to 40% of base load. The plan is for almost 50% share of renewables in the overall energy mix. Countries like Poland very much depended on coal. Coal had something like an 80% share in the energy mix. And their plan for the future of their energy hasn't been finalized. We're, I think, waiting for their presidential elections. Until recently, Sweden has about 60% of renewables, and now it's turning into a country that's not going to rely on base loads, and all the coal-fired power stations are soon to close, and we can expand 80% of renewables by 2030. So my question is, considering the two sides of the coin, We need grid connections to migrate energy, but where can we have projects that involve more than 2 countries? And what is key in order for us to integrate the region? Strategically, should be thinking about connections east to west and include also Ukraine. So which are the strategic projects that need to be implemented in the short term? And then the other side of the coin, what was raised by Adam, everything that we can use as energy on the side where it gets generated. We have to low and medium voltage networks and their operators. We postponed the liberalization of the energy market for the households, but we have to educate consumers so that they know how to use the low-cost energy on site. Well, let me start from the end, because otherwise I'll forget all the questions that you asked. As regards power generation close to consumers, that's really crucial. Bulgaria has a huge potential for such energy generation, and as my colleague pointed out just now, the country's potential for the production and use of energy from renewables is more than 15,000 megawatts. There was a very interesting survey conducted by WWF together with another organization working in urbanized territories. The truth is that the sooner we create a mechanism allowing us to support the use of urbanized areas to generate energy from renewables, the more we'll be able to reduce losses across the transmission and distribution networks. We have to encourage industrial producers as well so that they can support the grids, considering the uneven work of renewable capacity and their increasing share in the energy system of the EU countries. So, as an energy system operator together with the Bulgarian Development Bank, we are in the process of developing a financial mechanism to encourage the deployment of renewable capacity on rooftops, on parking lots and other areas close to consumers in urban areas where energy can be used on the spot as close as possible to where it gets generated by the consumers. On the other issue that you raised, you asked about the key projects. I already talked about that, the important projects that need to be implemented so that Southeastern Europe can continue to invest in renewable capacity and increase the share of those into the energy mix of the countries. Those are the energy corridors. Without them, the whole region would have a lot of hours zero prices, and that would decrease investment in renewables. The other thing, hydrogen. Hydrogen is also a storage system, a possibility to store energy from renewable sources. But in order for the hydrogen technology to develop, it needs at least 6,000 hours per year of cheap, accessible energy. In our region, the potential for generating solar power is between 1,500 and 1,800, up to 2,000 hours. In Greece, slightly more than in Bulgaria, let's say 2,000 hours. Wind is about 2,500 hours with the new turbines that we expect to get will probably reach 2,800. Somebody is saying 3,400 and 4,500, but that's not realistic. So if we sum up 1,500 plus 2,000, we get 3,500 hours of renewable energy, and that's not a prerequisite for the fast development of hydrogen technology. But if we have sufficient inter-system connectivity and grid connectivity, then energy from other regions where we have zero prices or very low prices, that energy can add to the required hours of renewable energy in certain areas of South and Eastern Europe. And in the same time, energy generated here can help other regions in Europe, because in Germany, the potential for solar power generation is just 900 hours. They have a lot of wind energy, but they still can't get 6,500 hours, the amount they require. So this is the main reason for the slow development of hydrogen technology and hydrogen generation. Bulgaria is quite focused on its efforts to develop hydrogen production. We're part of the Bulgarian Hydrogen Association. Unfortunately, Bulgaria was used to be one of the first four hydrogen valleys, but the project failed to be implemented. The reason being that we did not have sufficient power to serve as input to generate hydrogen. So I mixed things a bit, but I wanted to share my view. The projects that need to be implemented in Bulgaria are first the energy corridors, increasing cross-border capacity, increasing grid connectivity, increasing the capacity of storage systems, irrespective of whether these be batteries or hydropower stations. Each one of these systems has its role to play within the grid, and the more varied storage systems we are able to build, the better. We have a lot of potential, as in the past a lot of dams were constructed, and we have a lot of hydrogen power stations. So we work currently on 4 projects for hydropower stations and the capacity to store more than 60 to 70,000 megawatt hours. Also, the constructions of the new nuclear power station blocks in the region. So these are also projects that would ensure security of supplies and the capacity of energy grids also ensuring security for all consumers. Without basic capacity, it would not be possible to develop renewables, as energy grids need dynamic resilience, and this can also be ensured by big rotating machines. Otherwise, we'll have to create artificial inertia in the system. Well, that can open up discussion for another couple of hours, but I would like to thank you. I challenged you with a list of questions, but you managed excellently with those. Before we close the panel, I would like to give another minute or two to our guests so that they can share their vision.
Final thoughts. Try to be very concise. Not Twitter style, a little bit more extended, but still more or less a minute as a conclusion of our panel and forward look.
Yeah, my takeaway from this conference is to see such an interest in the topic, which sometimes was lacking in the past, and I think we are on a very good way. Also, all the panelists contributed with their view in a way that I feel encouraged to develop more projects in the region, and I think this is, for me, very positive. Yeah.
One of the side missions of this Green Transition Forum is really selling Bulgaria, so Božidar.
Yes, thank you. At the very end, I would just like to thank you, everybody, for sitting here so tight. What I would like to say is that one issue which we did not touch was security of energy systems, including renewable energy systems. Yesterday was a great panel about security and defense of Europe. We need to think in the time where we are living, what is happening around us, and I think it is very important for each of us, each of our family, each of our business, each of our cities, to have secure energy. Can you imagine living with energy which can, hopefully not, but it can, in theory, it can happen. This is the first thing, and the last thing, I want all the success with Euro coming next January to Bulgaria.
Thank you very much. Yes, energy security, but I think that the more renewables we have, the more energy security we have. I think this was an immediate conclusion with the start of the energy crisis and the war in Ukraine. Adam, your final thoughts and message?
My final message is that, so if we are looking at the megatrends, I would say that, so what we achieved so far is like, let's say, the easy win and the low-hanging fruit, but now we really have to like enter the next phase and, you know, like speeding up renewables with all the layers that we have, so the environment, competitiveness, security, social aspect. So I really value this platform, and I think that so this is like the $1 billion question, that how we can do it in a smart way, but that's why we are here.
Thank you. We need more exchange. Thank you very much. Once again, we really appreciate that you chose us over the masterclass of Professor Asemoglu, and you have the chance to follow his public lecture later on this afternoon. Thank you very much. Enjoy the break. Enjoy the rest of the forum.